Grown men playing with wind-up dolls will never be the same. This is the rules of the game.
Hey.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
Welcome to Seen and Heard, everybody. This is the podcast where me, Greg, you, Jackie, go through the Sight and Sound Top 100 Films of All Time list. If you're joining us this week, that means that you are here for Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game from 1939.
Yes.
If you're new to the podcast, thanks for joining. So last week we did Ali Fear Eats the Soul, which is the third. It's technically tied for third, the last of the list. It's like the third from the bottom of the list. And this week we're doing number 4 from the top. So Rules of the Game is ranked as from Sight and Sound as the 4th greatest film of all time.
Wow.
Just behind Tokyo Story, Citizen Kane, and Vertigo.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're at number 4 this week.
Being in the top, anything in the top 5 it's so much pressure, I think.
As a viewer going in because of expectations.
As a podcaster talking about it, maybe.
Like, oh, we really don't want to mess this one up.
Yeah.
I hope we don't misinterpret this one.
Well.
Or don't have enough to say about it. These are fears we have every week.
Definitely. But if I'm being completely honest, so far, the movies at the bottom of the list have been... Okay, I think Earrings of Madame De and Ali Fear Eats the Soul have been probably my favorites. Is that bad?
No, it's not.
And
bad
Vertigo,
at all.
obviously. I'm obsessed with Vertigo.
I wonder if it has something to do. I do agree with you, and I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that, like, the expectation is not necessarily there.
That's what I mean when I say pressure. Yeah, when I'm watching anything in the top 5, I feel like, okay, I have to love this, otherwise I am kidding myself, and I can't call myself someone who loves movies.
You get your cinephile card revoked.
Exactly. But we shouldn't feel like that.
No, we shouldn't. And it's funny because even then, to be on the top 100 is still a very slim list. So even the ones at the bottom of the list are still, the fact that they made it onto this top 100 is pretty crazy. But
I agree.
No, I do agree. When you're talking about something like Rules of the Game versus Earrings of Madame De or Ali Fear Eats the Soul, there is this pressure and there's this kind of like stigma.
We've had more fun doing the ones on the bottom, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Honestly.
Except Tokyo Story was really fun.
And Vertigo. And honestly, and Citizen Kane.
Yeah, what am I saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, Greg, what else have you been watching besides Rules of the Game?
So, in the last week, I haven't been watching many movies. I did watch some TV, which is unusual for me.
What?
We're talking, 50-year-old TV.
Of course.
So I hadn't seen any of Rod Serling's Night Gallery series before. Have you seen any of that?
Mm-mm.
Do you know what that is?
Greg, I barely watch like modern TV. I don't.
Same.
I haven't seen anything old.
Rod Serling is the guy.
Except The Nanny.
That's not old. That's from the 90s.
Yeah, The Nanny and to be fair, The Nanny and Seinfeld are like my favorite TV shows, and they are from the 90s.
Oh,
so
those two. Interesting. I like The Nanny. I've probably only seen like 2 episodes though.
Continue. What were you saying?
So no, it's fine. So Rod Serling is the guy who created and hosted The Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know him.
So his follow-up series was a show called Night Gallery, and it was started in like 1969, 1970. So it was a little bit darker, a little bit edgier. And so I just watched the pilot, which is basically a made-for-TV movie. It's a 90-minute movie with 3 different segments in it. One of those segments is Steven Spielberg's debut as a director.
No way!
And it has Joan Crawford. I think it's just called Eyes, about this blind woman who wants to see again, and it gets this poor guy who owes money to these bookies to give up his eyes for $9,000.
Wow!
So she can see for like 11 hours, and then at the end of those 11 hours, she goes blind again.
I love that.
But she just wants to like take in she lives on Central Park on this like high rise, and she just wants to like see all the colors and take everything in before she goes blind again.
That sounds really cool.
But yeah, I was really impressed because over the years I hear people talk like, oh yeah, Night Gallery, it's no Twilight Zone. And it's not, and it has a different feel to it, but it's still, the writing is still there, and they're good. There were 3 good stories in that pilot episode I actually really enjoyed. And then beyond that, I was watching, do you know Don Hertzfeldt?
Mm-mm.
He's an animator known for kind of like stick figure animations, and he makes these movies entirely by himself. Like, he writes them, he animates them.
What's the one that's really famous?
It's Such a Beautiful Day?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, it's so good. So he does a series called World of Tomorrow, and he does them every couple years, and they're like anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes long each. So there's 3 episodes, and I'd seen the first one before. So World of Tomorrow, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. I just saw episode 3 for the first time and was just blown away. Like, truly amazing, really innovative sci-fi, really emotional, hefty, thoughtful, and inventive sci-fi. Like, really beautifully done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting this answer.
Oh, that I watched like short form stuff? Yeah. Well, what about you? What have you been watching?
I was able to watch The Worst Person in the World, the Norwegian movie that won Best Actress at Cannes. And the director, his name is Joachim Trier. I think that's how you say his name, Joachim. Anyway, really, really liked it. It was great. It's one of those movies where some of the things that they say in the movie are things that I've been thinking for years.
Like what?
I don't want to give it away. And they're things that I think that like a lot of other women also think. And then I had to check like 5 times to make sure a man made this movie because I just couldn't believe it. Like, it's so female centered. And it's, like I said, like, she says things in there that I feel like all women think. And it was great. It's really intelligent. Yeah, and I think I really appreciate any like quarter life crisis movie right now. And it's really, really, really good. And it's sweet. It's very beautiful. Highly recommend. It's great.
Yeah, I know of it. It's on my radar, but have not seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I know, I haven't seen anything by him, but I know he was in the Criterion Closet. You know those videos?
Yes, I love those videos.
Someday, right? Someday.
Yes. I'm in your office right now, Greg, and I'm looking at your movies, and I almost feel like I'm in the Criterion Closet right now.
Too nice.
No, I'm serious. The Rules of the Game was released in July of 1939, and it's directed by Jean Renoir. It was inspired by the 1833 play Les Caprices de Marianne, in which a friend also named Octave appears. Octave, excuse me. And it's also inspired by The Marriage of Figaro. The film is an ensemble piece concerning a getaway spent at a Marquis chateau in the French countryside. The lord and lady of the house, the de la Cheniers, invite their friends and lovers for a hunt and a ball. The lives of the rich guests mingle and coexist with those of the house's staff, and inevitable, oftentimes slapsticky chaos ensues until a tragedy at the end brings the frivolous themes of the movie into perspective. Nora Gregor stars as Madame Christine, whose crush on a young aviator, André, played by Roland Toutaine, leads him to the chateau and his untimely death. Marcel Dalio stars as the Marquis Robert, whose mistress, Geneviève, was also invited. Paulette Dubos stars as Lisette, who is Christine's lady's maid, who wants nothing to do with her husband, the gamekeeper of the estate, Mr. Schumacher. And Jean Renoir himself plays Octave, an old friend of Christine's and the wingman to André. This is the only film to appear on every version of the Sight and Sound list since 1952. And in 1952, it started as like 10 movies, by the way. And it was on there. Also on the list by Renoir is La Grande Illusion from 1937 and Partie de Campagne from 1936. And so much is like written about this movie's production, pre-production, the writing, the release. It was mind-boggling reading about all this movie went through.
Yeah, I actually had no idea before researching for this episode the history of this movie.
It's crazy. So it's been through, and this is kind of the order. It was released to a horrible reception. People hated it. Like boos.
And he
during
was
the premiere.
He was coming off of a really successful streak of movies.
Yeah, he was.
That were loved.
Yes. Horrible reception. So then he shortened it after a few weeks, because I think it was originally like
113 minutes.
Something like that. He brought it down to 80-something minutes, 83 minutes. Shortened it. Still hated by all. It was banned by the French government in October of 1939, like right when the war started. And they called it depressing, morbid, immoral, and having an undesirable influence over the young. And then after that, the original negative was destroyed in the war.
In a bombing.
Okay.
Because this is made right on the cusp of World War II.
Yes. And then, miraculously, an 85-minute version print was found. It was released. This is right after the war. Still not hugely accepted as great. And then after that, in 1956, I forgot the number, 200-something negatives and sound mixes were found in these boxes from the rubble of that crazy.
It had to be reconstructed, yeah.
They reconstructed it, and it's what we have today. I think it was an hour, 46 minutes. And they reconstructed it with Renoir's blessing. And he said that it was essentially what he had in mind. There's one scene missing. And yeah, now it's considered a masterpiece. It was just like, I couldn't believe all that happened to be able to watch what we both watched, like on Criterion Channel.
Well, and I know, so because he was this celebrated filmmaker at the time already before this movie's release, and because he could kind of sense the impending war, I think that played a lot into the story, and also wanting to make it quickly and get it out, release it before shit went down.
It was
basically.
so risky. Everything about this was so risky.
And it was the most expensive French film at that point ever made, which is crazy. Where did all that money go?
I know. I
guess the sets and stuff, and he wanted to shoot it in color, and they said no.
I wonder why.
It's just too expensive.
But if it was already so expensive.
Yeah, I don't know. But he wanted to shoot in color. And then also, while they were filming, Germany invaded Czechoslovakia. And like a bunch of crew members left to go join the army.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read that as well.
So it's literally right on the cusp of...
So much happening. And he makes this movie. But it cost him so much. It cost him... He felt horrible about himself. He thought, okay, I need to quit. Clearly, this is a sign. People hated it. Critics hated it. It lost so much money.
I mean, considering he'd already proven himself, it's funny that all it took was one kind of like critical and failure for him to be like, oh, I'm going to throw it in now.
I know.
He didn't, but he thought about it.
Yeah.
And he was super depressed. And it wasn't until, it was reconstructed in 1956 and shown at the Venice Film Festival.
Yeah.
And from then on, it was just like this masterpiece all of a sudden. Again, I think like so many movies kind of ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
But during the 1956 Venice Film Festival, all of those people of the next generation were there. So the French New Wave people but they all were like, oh, Jean Renoir is the father of French cinema and stuff. So he was... I think moved to tears.
I read that too. He was like crying.
Yeah, that's really sweet. I'm glad, because sometimes that doesn't happen until after the filmmaker passes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the fact that he got this turnaround, he got to see it in his lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think he lived till the mid 70s too. So he got 20 years of
people loving
this movie being one of the best. Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah. I had seen this before. I think I'd seen this a number of years ago. Didn't leave like a huge impression on me then. And I'll admit, even now, it's a hard movie to love. So yeah, I know we talked about Paul Schrader 2 weeks ago on the Tokyo Story episode because he had a big part in, the whole transcendental theory and stuff. But he was also a huge, huge fan of Renoir. And he said about this movie, The Rules of the Game, that literally it takes advantage of all of the possibilities of cinema. And I think that is almost too grand a statement to put on this movie.
I think I
agree. To be completely honest.
I think I agree.
Yeah. What do you...
I think Vertigo does that.
I think so too. Yeah. Or Tokyo Story.
Yeah. So, okay. So my initial thoughts. Deep focus, really cool. Really effective. Really beautiful at times. The long takes, the dolly shots, they're all gorgeous and they work with the whole ensemble. Like 1 second you're seeing these people and then the camera is moving and you get a glimpse of this conversation. It works really well. So I get what he's saying. Like, I think the style serves the story so well. Like we don't need to get into it now, but like when Andre first arrives, do you remember that great shot that kind of turns the corner and we're seeing her look at the door and then he's all the way there, he's far away. And then other deep focus, just that hallway that all their bedrooms are in, that long, and you get to see everyone just doing their stuff. I thought it was really, really cool. But I agree with you. I don't have really strong feelings.
I think it's one of those movies, unlike something like Vertigo, which is a joy while you're watching it, and it's also joy to talk about afterwards. I think The Rules of the Game is a movie that's more fun to talk about afterwards than it is to watch.
Sure. I agree. When I was reading about it after, I got really into it. I was like, oh my God. Because there's so much written about it. And yeah, this sounds really bad, but I found more substance reading about it. I really like the ending. That was also another initial thought. Like when the ending happened, because I didn't see where it was possibly going to go. And when it happened, I thought, okay, that makes great sense.
Yeah, I think so.
And a lot
too.
of people didn't think that. I was looking on Letterboxd. A lot of people hated the review. The ending.
Really?
Yeah. But I thought it was great. And it almost reminded me of The Great Gatsby. Like someone's dead and the rich people don't really care.
Sure. I think this takes cues from all of that stuff,
yeah.
Right? I'm sure that Renoir read Great Gatsby.
Sure.
And it's funny, when this came out, the New York Times... The New York Times said that this was, in quotes, one for the buzzards.
Wow. It's shocking to me how much it's come up from being hated so much.
Also, can you imagine being the critic that got to say that?
I know. One for the buzzards.
One for the buzzards.
Oh my gosh. But
yeah, it's a good movie. This is a really good movie.
I agree.
But at the end of the day, to say the number 4,
wild.
Greatest movie of all
that's
time.
Wild.
And I know the Sight and Sound has history with this movie because, like you were saying earlier,
it is the only movie to appear. Yeah, it's been on the list since the list's inception
in 1952.
When it was only 10 movies. It was one of them.
So Sight and Sound, because that list was published in 1952, and because the critical reevaluation for this didn't come till 1956, you would say Sight and Sound was almost ahead of the curve.
They were, yeah.
In their evaluation of this,
they would have seen the 85-minute version that everyone hated.
It was
and
that
they
version,
still, and they still loved it.
They still loved it. They put it on the list.
Citizen Kane was a runner-up. I was like, because it's online. The list is online from 1952, and it had all the runners-up, and Citizen Kane was one of them.
Wow.
Which is because I think this movie influenced Citizen Kane so much.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see that. I see Altman.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Well, I mean, Altman even did Gosford
Park, yeah.
Yeah.
This is French Downton Abbey.
It's so hard. These movies are like 70 years apart. It's hard to like properly.
I'm a huge Downton Abbey fan.
Yeah.
I love Downton Abbey.
Have we talked about Downton on the show yet?
I don't know. Julian Fellowes, the creator of Downton Abbey, wrote Gosford Park.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's kind of just like a really long Downton episode, but it's so it was this, Gosford Park, Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
That was the chronological order of this kind of upstairs, downstairs form, really.
Well, there was a lot. There was a BBC series in the 70s or 80s called Upstairs, Downstairs.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's, yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like, yeah.
This form of you have the rich people and you have the servants.
Well, I'll say this. Downton Abbey loses all of the sort of like critique, I think. Like, because the upstairs people are actually well-intentioned, good people. And because someone like Robert Grantham is so understanding and cordial.
He's so sweet. I love Robert.
Like, there's no one upstairs that's like trash. In fact, all the trash characters are downstairs,
kind
like
of.
Miss O'Brien.
And what is that
Thomas.
saying about, What
No, I
kind
love
of social statement is that trying to make?
Yeah, I know.
Kind of, yeah.
As much as I love Downton, I think it
It's
loses.
not scathing. Like, this is a scathing critique.
And Gosford Park, too.
Is a scathing
Gosford Park
critique,
has
yes.
a bite to it.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I said it is basically Downton Abbey, but it's not. It has that bite.
Yeah.
Downton Abbey is very flattering and very indulgent.
It's very cozy.
Oh my God, I love it.
That's what I love it for,
I'm not
yeah.
saying that in a bad way when I say that it's like so indulgent. I genuinely love putting on Downton and just melting into my couch.
Same.
It's bad. I think it's bad that we're comparing it to Gosford Park.
It is. This is a movie that had many decades, had a whole lifetime on this movie.
Think about, and I think it is really ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I think most movies on this list were ahead of their time.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's talk about, so this is a good segue into, I think, one of the main talking points of this movie, this upstairs, downstairs. Obviously, there's differences between the classes. And I mean, there's a lot of moments that mock the high society, right? I mean, you have this whole sea salt incident, the one lady who can only eat with sea salt. And
the cook refusing.
She's talking to the cook. She goes, listen, even a child would understand. And the cook, I love, he has this line where it says, I do diets, but I don't do obsessions.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. And then there's, of course, I think it's the same lady when she's asking Jackie, by the way, name is Jackie, even though she's in France. That confused me. Right?
Yeah,
Why
I
doesn't
guess
she just
so.
go by Jacqueline? Like, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't get
know.
that was funny.
Maybe it was a translation thing for the subtitles. I don't know.
No, it wasn't no, they were saying like Jackie.
Oh,
and I was
okay.
like, excuse me. But when she's saying she's studying pre-Columbia America, I think that's what she's studying. And
that's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And they go, oh yeah, like who lived, they're genuinely confused on who lived in America before Columbus.
Well, even before that, she says she's studying pre-Columbian art.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's pre-Columbian art.
And you're like, wait, the country?
What? I know. It's so confusing. And then she goes, oh, yeah, Buffalo Bill, duh.
Yeah, just
like,
pre-Columbus.
Anyway, so they're mocking these rich people. Oh, another one I love. When Robert, the Marquis, loses the screw from his warbler. One of his singing.
Yeah, because he has this whole collection of wind-up toys.
And he's in this like grand room and he's looking behind the couch. He's like, my screw. And the servants are all like, yes, we understand. Like, it's your screw, sir. Do you remember that? Like, they just say it in such a patronizing way that it was just funny. So it is mocking the rich people. But is it fair to call this movie a critique of just high society? Because I don't think it is. I think it's a critique of just the pompousness of like bourgeois France.
Well, because yeah. Well, also the downstairs people are also thrown in too.
That's what I'm saying.
Look at the gamekeeper, the guy that's married.
That's what I'm saying. There's infidelity downstairs. There's the guy that he hires, the guy who's originally a poacher, the one that is pursuing the lady's maid. I forgot her name. Lisette.
Oh, is that Lisette?
So he was a poacher, and then the Marquis hired him to be a domestic in the house. And he says something like, I always wanted to be a domestic, like the uniform is so nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there were other good ones. Oh, they're judging them for being Jewish.
Yeah.
The servants.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's just a critique of high society, but I feel like it's sold as that. I feel like it's sold as a satire on like high society. But it's not. I think it's just a satire on how much...
I think it's everybody,
I think
really.
it's just about like French snobbery.
I think so too. I think when it came out, the French felt personally attacked by Renoir.
Yeah.
It's anti-patriotic and stuff. And Renoir said, in quotes, I thought I was gentle with them and they thought I was laughing at them. Yeah. So it is, I do think he's making fun of everybody here.
I think so too.
Because it is this society on the verge of this impending doom. Mm-hmm. And everything that brings with it.
Mm-hmm. But I think that this movie is not funny enough to be called a satire or a comedy.
No, I mean, I think so.
Do you think
don't think so?
I didn't really laugh that much.
Well, it's
I grinned at most.
Well, this is like at this point an 80-year-old movie.
It's true, but
and
I laugh at Marx Brothers.
Okay, yeah. It's one of those. It's funny, but not in like a laugh out loud way.
And I
it's
think
like
it's
a smirk
and
here
I think
and there.
it hurts itself by selling itself as such, as a satire. Because do you think it's a satire?
Well,
Like, I think that there are satirical moments, but I think the tone is kind of...
the subtitle in the beginning of the movie, in the opening credits, it refers to itself as a dramatic fantasy.
Yeah,
So is it Renoir that's
I think
selling
this
it
is
as a
my
comedy?
problem with this movie, is that I feel like it sells itself as like the societal rules and we're making fun of them, but I don't see those rules. Everyone just kind of accepts that everyone has a lover, right? That's like, they even God, what's his name? Octave says
played by Renoir.
Yes, he says when he's talking to Andre about Christine and why she won't give him attention. By the way, they're not like seeing each other. Andre and Christine are not together, but I thought that they were for the first like 20 minutes of the movie.
No, she just kind of
flirts with him.
Yeah.
So his friend Octave tells him she's a society woman and society has rules. But like I said, I don't feel those rules. Everyone knows about everyone's lovers and mistresses, and nothing happens. There are no consequences.
Well, that's the thing. Nobody in this movie is playing by the rules.
I suppose. Yeah.
Except for someone like the groundskeeper, who is from this old world, because everyone else is kind of exchanging partners and having affairs and out of boredom, really. And the groundskeeper, when his wife starts flirting with this new guy, basically the Mr. Bates of this movie.
Exactly.
He goes ballistic and for 20 minutes tries to, hunt him down and shoot him and stuff. But he's playing by these old rules of, no, that's my wife. And no, she's not going to sleep with someone else. And how dare you chase my wife? And everyone else is trading spouses and partners and everything.
And then I think that's why I was kind of put off, because maybe it just wasn't that clear to me that it's like, because there's the ending, right? Where they're putting on these faces and their privilege is allowing them to get away with murder, basically, or to let Schumacher get away with murder. And they put on faces. Christine even tells Jackie, like, people are looking, don't cry. So that was very much, there are these rules. You need to look, you can't show that you're grieving and you need to put on a good face. She even says goodnight to Schumacher, the man who just killed her kind of lover.
Yeah, the person she was about to.
So that's the thing. So it's, So that's the thing. I think there are moments where they are playing by these rules.
Their own fucked up rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Andre, the aviator, who, when Christine tells him, like, let's run away, let's just go, he's like, no, like, I want to tell your husband, we have to be civil.
Yeah, what a buzzkill.
Yeah.
And that does not do it for her.
No. And we can get into that. I think that that's really interesting.
Well, he's an interesting character, too, because he starts off the movie, right? The first scene of the movie is him landing in his transatlantic solo flight and him pining for Christine and stuff. That's the first thing we ever see in the movie. As the movie goes on, they care less and less about Andre until you get to that part of the movie. You get to the last act, and especially when him and Christine are going to run away together. He's like, no, I want to talk to your husband first. The movie just kind of brushes him aside at that point. And again, I think this is something Renoir said too. He was very intentional about not having like a main character.
Yeah.
And it was like a true ensemble piece. Like Altman. I do think, and I know that Altman did love this movie, and it totally shows. I think Altman took everything that's great about this and like evolved it.
I totally see that.
But the movie at a certain point, just like, Andre, what do we care? And they just kind of toss him aside.
Yeah, you're right. So do you think anyone in this movie's actually in love?
No.
I don't either, except maybe Andre, and he dies for it.
I don't even think he's in love. He's just infatuated.
I don't think so either. There's a great quote. It says, and this is like probably my favorite quote in the movie. It says, love as it exists in society is merely the mingling of two whims and the contact of two skins. So non-existent.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
The Octave Christine relationship where they suddenly decide they're in love.
She decides she's in love with him.
So
And then he just melts away and it's like, yes, of course, let me get your coat.
It's kind of interesting because they both are kind of fantasy oriented. She wants this big romantic getaway. And he has that great moment where he kind of pretends like he's conducting an orchestra. Do you remember?
Yeah, like her father.
He wants to be that.
composer.
He has this like fantasy image of himself. And so does she, this kind of romantic heroine. But then
Maybe Octave is in love with Christine's father and not her.
Perhaps. But then I fail to see, this is my problem with this movie, I think, is that's great. That's really cool that they are like living in this fantasy kind of world. I fail to see what the movie is saying about societal rules. Are they stupid? Do people make them and not follow them? Do people follow them too closely? I feel like it's doing all of these. And at times it makes it kind of hard.
I think my take, especially knowing what Renoir said about he thought this was a gentle movie, I think he's just kind of showing it as is, and he's not necessarily putting himself behind any specific viewpoint of like, oh,
That
they're
makes sense.
wrong and they're right. This group
Totally
knows what they're doing. It's just kind of like, it is a farce, right? This is a farce first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just don't know that he's so passionately behind one or the other.
Yeah. I agree. The Hunt.
The Hunt.
If anyone knows me, they know that I love bunny rabbits.
Oh, do you love? Oh, you told me a story about it.
I love rabbits. There should be a trigger warning for rabbit lovers.
Yeah, if you don't, I mean, unfortunately, with a lot of these older movies, period, and especially from other countries that had less strict animal cruelty laws, you see a lot of animals hurt and killed. And in this movie, they killed like 100.
No, they were.
It was like 100 rabbits and birds, and you literally see them shot and die on camera. You literally see these rabbits like
It's
dying,
so
like
bad.
twitching.
Yeah.
So this is, if that is a trigger for you, don't watch this movie.
No.
Although if you're listening to the podcast, I'm assuming you've probably already seen the movie.
So in this sequence, this hunt sequence, 51 shots in 4 minutes. And a movie that otherwise has these really long takes.
Languid. Yeah, exactly.
12 animals die in 53 seconds. I mean, like in the movie, not in real life. You just said, 100?
Yeah, I think they killed over 100 total.
But you just see it all.
You know what it is? It's the shower scene in Psycho.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
All these quick cuts of violence.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then even at the end when they're talking about Andre, someone says he dropped like an animal in the hunt.
That's right. That's right.
It's horrible.
It's horrible.
But I think that it's a really... So Renoir was a pacifist. He hated hunting.
Yeah.
He hated killing.
Yet in his movie, to illustrate a point.
Look how much... Yeah.
He killed all these animals on camera.
That's horrible. But I think that it's important for the movie. I think that scene really is important for the movie because I think it's the closest we get to this kind of impeding war.
Right
behind us.
Yeah. And because it is such a senseless massacre because they're shooting at every animal that moves.
It's a massacre. It is.
Like, I am surprised they don't just start firing on the hunting dogs themselves because they're just shooting every single animal that's moving. And it is this relentless... Yeah, they're just firing squad.
I didn't know the rabbits were going to be a part of it. I thought it was just pheasants.
Yeah.
And then, little did I know.
So you're less of a bird fan then.
I hate birds.
Oh,
you know this.
I
was attacked by a bird. I won't get into the details now, but a very unconsiderate woman was walking with a parrot that she rescued from the wilderness. This was a wild parrot. Walking, the bird saw the fear in my eyes and attacked me while I was out for a walk with my dog.
It's horrific.
It was so bad. But I hated birds before then. That's the beauty. That's the great ironic part of this story is I hated birds. I've always hated birds, and that happened.
It just solidified your feelings.
Yeah. You know what? Let him have the pheasants. I don't care about the pheasants.
Those poor rabbits.
It's the rabbits.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'd never like to see animals hurt in movies. It's a
I
terrible,
don't.
terrible thing.
Yeah.
But to watch some of cinema's greatest hits, you need to have, you just see some shit. You see some shit.
Another incredible sequence, I think, is the ball / play they put on for their friends. Is it even
a ball? It's more, it's kind of like a...
It's more of a party.
Yeah, it's like a burlesque.
Yeah. Vaudeville.
Yeah, it's like vaudeville. They do kind of a shadow thing, and there's skeletons.
So cool. I love the
up.
skeleton dance. I love that long sequence where there's spotlights basically on one group of lovers, adulterous lovers, and then another. It's great. That sequence is incredible.
The shot where the camera goes down the hallway. Is that what you're talking about?
No, where it's like literally spotlights.
Oh, yeah.
And it's 1 second you're seeing Christine and 1 second you're seeing her lady's maid. And
yeah, that's right.
It's great. At that part, I really, really liked.
Do you remember that shot? It happens right after that or during that when the camera does just kind of track down the hall and you see everyone it stops. You see some people in the doorway kind of kissing and then it keeps going. And
that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Well, I don't think because they're not performing when that happens.
They're not performing. I'm not saying that. No, it's a spotlight that's showing them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think
like the light comes. Yeah, we're talking about the same exact thing. Yeah. So yeah, I mean this movie has great sequences like that.
Octave. Well, first of all, wait, because I want to talk about Octave real quick.
Bear suit.
Do you have a favorite character in this?
Kind of the chef.
Because they won't take any shit.
He's hilarious.
About the sea salt. The potato salad story.
Who's your favorite character?
Octave.
Yeah. But okay, Octave leaves at the end, right? He's kind of disenchanted and he leaves. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So he's in a bear suit, first of all.
No, you're talking about all the way at the end of the movie. But let's talk about the bear suit.
Well, yeah, since we're talking about the burlesque. Octave is in this bear suit and he can't get out of it on his own. And so there's this whole drawn out sequence, which we'll talk about later. But he is going around from room to room asking if people could help him get out of this bear suit and no one's offering help.
It's so funny.
And he's getting increasingly annoyed.
Yeah.
But I want to say the image of him in the bear suit has to be, unless there's like a Shakespeare reference or there's some reference that goes further back than this. Honestly, there probably is that I'm just like not picking up on. But I feel like echoes of Octave in the bear suit, you can find them in Roger Corman's Mask of the Red Death with Vincent Price, because the actor Patrick McGee, pretty sure that's his name, has this horrific scene where it is this opulent party at this like castle. He's in a bear suit. And they like light him on fire while he's in the suit and he dies.
Oh my God.
And then also there's echoes of this in The Shining, which I know you have not seen. And we're going to work on that one because it's not on the list. Maybe we'll have to do a little bonus episode about The Shining, but we're going to have to sit you down. We're going to have to watch The Shining. But this doesn't give anything in the movie away, but there's the bear suit echoes are in that too, where if you've seen The Shining, you know what I'm talking about.
What about What about the bear suit in Midsummer?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that one's like, I think because the first two movies, because of Mask of the Red Death and The Shining, they're like used in these like they're high society people that are choosing to dress up in a bear suit, whereas in Midsummer, like they get stuffed in a bear suit. It's not this like grand thing.
Right. It's not metaphoric. I haven't seen Midsummer, but I've read it. Like I read this is what I do with horror movies.
You read
I watch I read the Wikipedia.
That movie is great. It's so good. It's not even really a horror movie. Like it's disturbing.
I don't like I will be disturbed for several nights.
But it's like also kind of a black comedy. Like there's parts of Midsummer that are like laugh out loud, hilarious. A couple. Okay. I don't want to say some people like, oh, it's a straight up comedy. It's not a straight up comedy, but it is funny in parts.
Okay.
Yeah. But now this is our bear suit tangent.
One of my favorite shots of the movie is when, and it's a great use of this deep focus, is when Octave is walking through. He's trying to find someone to take off the suit. Christine hides because he's saying like, "Have you seen Christine?" And she's picked up a random dude, one of their friends, that she decides like, okay, we're gonna. I don't know what they do, and then he's leaving that room. Do you remember? And as he's leaving,
she pops out.
He's closing the door and she pops out in the background.
Yeah.
It's so great. It's a
Mhm.
really, really great shot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Staging in this movie is really good.
It is. Not honestly, not so much as something like Earrings of Madame Dove.
Oh my God.
Which
I
was
know. I agree.
But again, that movie has like 10 plus years on this one.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
but yeah, no, it is. It is.
Yeah.
When I think of this movie, though, I don't think of it as like this technically perfect thing.
A lot of people do, though.
Yeah, I don't at all, really.
Well, you were saying you were having a hard time picking your favorite site.
Yeah.
As in, like, you couldn't find one that you felt strongly about.
As of this point in the podcast, I still don't have it picked out. So
really?
We'll yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I guess only a third of this movie was scripted.
Yeah.
And the rest, they just had an outline.
Yeah.
Because Renoir said, literally quotes, he wanted it to feel like they were dancing on a volcano.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that, right? It works because the movie does have this kind of chaotic energy that comes through. But I think because of that, I don't know. It just doesn't feel, I don't know.
And I feel like he has all the great lines.
He does have all the great lines. And he had this whole crisis because he wasn't supposed to play Octave.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be someone else. They dropped out.
Wasn't it his brother?
No, I think it was like a proper actor. I don't know if it was his brother. But yeah, then he was like, oh, I'll just do it. Mm-hmm. Hoping that the other guy would just come back, but he didn't. So he ended up playing it. And then like the producers came like, what are you doing? You're horrible in this. And he's like, oh, well, that guy could do it instead. And then it was this whole thing. And then after the movie was done, he cut out a bunch of Octave scenes.
Yeah.
So he was very, self-aware. He was very embarrassed kind of this performance. It's funny because while I was watching the movie this time, I didn't know it was Renoir.
Oh, like that. Yeah. That he was
Renoir plays Octave. I didn't know that was him. And I was like, oh, this is my favorite character.
Oh.
And then later I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But because he just, I don't know. There's a magic to him. He wears his heart on his sleeve, right?
I think so.
Yeah. While he was kind of beaten down by the rules, right? Mm-hmm. He kind of has like the most life in him. And I feel like he's the most genuine, especially in that scene early on with him and Andre where they're coming up to the estate and they pull over. He's like, listen, he gives him that speech where he just
he crashes the car into a ditch.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And just tells him off like, listen, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, great.
Yeah, he is great. I think he's great in it. I don't think that he did a bad job at all.
Yeah.
So Nora Gregor, who plays Christine, she was like an Austrian princess. And she was an actress in Austria, and then she was kind of having an affair with this Viscount or something. And they eventually got married. And he saw her one night, I forget where, and he decided to cast her. But he was really disappointed in her performance. And I hear that he really changed the character based on her performance. Like she was supposed to be I think she was supposed to be much, much louder and much, I don't know, more proactive. And he changed it a lot because I don't think she does that great of a job, but
yeah. Sometimes it's hard to tell when you don't speak the language. Like I always kind of give people leniency. I'm like, yeah, they look like they're doing a good enough job, but yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I think the movie too, because it's always moving and because it's so cacophonous and there's always people in the frames, like it's kinder to
I don't think
the actors that aren't as strong.
It gives anyone too much of a pressing focus to be bad.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your favorite site? Have you decided yet?
So yeah, I'm going to have to go with my gut on this one. Again, it's not a specific scene. It's throughout the whole movie, but it's Robert the Marquis's eyebrows that are drawn on.
Oh my God, yes. He's wearing eyeliner too.
Yeah. It's a very dramatic
funny.
Look.
It is. It's so funny. I'm so glad you brought that up. I forgot about that.
How about you? What's your favorite
Mine
site?
is this great shot when people are arriving at the chateau and it's raining and it's a doorway shot.
Yeah, it's just like this torrential downpour.
Yeah. Favorite sound. This was hard for me.
Yeah, what's yours? Why don't you go first?
Mine is the sound of, it's the calm before the storm during the hunt. It's the sound of the sticks hitting the trees.
Avancez la gauche. Un peu en avant.
It's just satisfying.
Yeah.
Such a crisp, like, clunk.
There's something about wood on wood.
Mm-hmm.
It's so of the earth.
That's the only thing I like about baseball is when you get a good...
Oh, yeah.
It's the only thing I like.
Right in the sweet spot of the bat.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. That's the only thing you like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big...
That and hot dogs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I have like 5 favorite sounds.
Are you serious? That's a lot. And you couldn't even decide a site.
There's so many here. I could go with like 4 different sounds, but I'm gonna go with this one. Yeah, so it's when Octave is talking to Christine towards the end of the movie, and she's talking about like why, Robert lied to me because he was carrying on this affair,
Mm-hmm.
and then Octave has this whole line saying, "That's just part of the times. Today, everyone lies. Pharmaceutical flyers, governments, the radio, the movies, the newspapers. So why shouldn't simple people like us lie as well?"
I really liked that line too. And again, it's
a
Renoir.
movie.
He gets like all the good lines.
He
that
gets all
they're
the good
improvising,
lines, and it's the movie, right? Summed up.
Yeah.
Écoute, Christine, ça aussi, c'est un truc de notre époque. On est à une époque où tout le monde ment. Les prospectus des pharmaciens, les gouvernements, la radio, le cinéma, les journaux. Alors pourquoi veux-tu que nous autres, les simples particuliers, on mente pas aussi?
There was another line where the general talks about, we're not going to pull it, but there's a scene where he talks about, last year, like this guy was hunting and pressed the rifle against his thigh and blew his thigh to pieces. Yeah. He died. And they start laughing.
Yeah. Horrible.
So that was like a runner-up for me.
That was good. What does Pauline say?
Oh my God, Pauline.
What the heck does she say?
So yeah, she says, Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game is a love roundelay that accelerates and intensifies until it becomes a rare mingling of lyric poetry and macabre farce. The lyric and the macabre turn out to be different aspects of the same love game. It would be possible to discuss the film simply in terms of its craftsmanship and the extraordinary editing, particularly in the last sequence. Technically, it's breathtaking, but it seems almost an insult to worry over how it is done, which is far more exciting to explore what is in it. Renoir, the great master of French naturalism, and the source of so much of the neorealist movement, is revealed in The Rules of the Game as the progenitor also of the trends in film associated with Bergman, Antonioni, René, and others. So yeah, it was a very glowing review. In fact, it was hard outside of Letterboxd to find anybody who did not love this movie. From Paul Schrader to Robert Altman to Pauline Kael, everyone loves this movie. And again, no hate coming from me.
No,
it's a perfectly
I like
good movie.
it.
Yeah, it's a good movie. But we talked about this when we did Tokyo Story of like, that is a reputation of being like a homework movie, but that's great. And I think it's so involving and transcendent. Truly.
I love Tokyo Story. I like this movie.
But this is like, honestly, more of an actual homework movie, I think. And maybe that makes me, it sounds kind of shitty. I don't know.
The only reason it sounds off is because it's so entertaining.
Yeah, it is entertaining. That's true. I guess it's just that my heart isn't in it because
I think so too. Because
it is such a farce. And yeah.
I think number 4 is just so high.
It's high.
So high.
I would guess over the years, this is going to slowly decline. Although I'm surprised, it's, in 2012, which is the list we're working off, that this is still number 4.
Right.
But I would think that over time, it's going to like slowly.
We'll have to see. I know.
drop.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. But so yeah, Pauline really liked it. Pauline thought it was great. She thinks it's on another level, and she thinks it's the genesis of Antonioni and Fellini and stuff, which is totally true. Like, if you do look at something like La Dolce Vita, right? Have you seen that? Or we're watching it in a few movies, I think. But yeah, Fellini got a lot from this. You see Bergman in here because Bergman did Smiles of a Summer Night, which is kind of a riff on this, actually. It's like this upper class, almost like weekend in the country at this estate that's kind of, people are sleeping with different people, and it's like that kind of thing. So this was a whole thing, and Altman and all those people kind of came from this. I think it
was really revolutionary in it for what it did, for how many people it influenced. I think that's why it's on the list.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so high on the list.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think maybe Sight and Sound is really holding on to it because they were such an early supporter of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
they liked it before anyone else did.
Yeah.
Should we get into Letterboxd?
Let's do Letterboxd.
It's my phone.
Someone gave it half a star and said an absolute farce, which it's supposed to be, of a disgusting bullshit movie. Everyone except Octave is despicable, and this movie they said mad me actively hate the French instead of made me. This was honestly terrible, boring, uninteresting, and just a bad time.
Wow. I don't think it's a bad time at all.
No.
2 stars. I don't care. It wasn't good. First hour was laborious at best and just constantly uninteresting. Satire wasn't rich, deep, or funny enough to engage with, and surfacely, it was dull. They also said, the party scene happens and I'm brought to life for 30 minutes before it meanders its way to a completely ridiculous conclusion, which I don't agree with.
I don't agree either. I think, if anything, from that party scene on, it kind of like ratchets up. And I think it gets more interesting because murder becomes involved and there's tension.
Yeah. 1 star, and they wrote a bunch of stuff, but I thought this was funny. Maybe it's because I'm not rich or French, or maybe it's because I could never dream to understand how people could dispose of each other so easily, yet claim to love them. It's got something.
Yeah. 1.5 stars. Oh, to be a funny little skeleton man toting around to dance macabre.
2 stars. These bitches want to be a Jane Austen novel so bad.
I saw that one. Someone gave it 1.5 stars and said, Christine ain't worth it, lads. Genuinely struggled to finish this.
Wow. One part of a very long review, which I really like. French people like to fuck? Who knew? Rich French people, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there are a lot of attacks on the French people in these reviews.
Yeah, here's another one. 2 stars. Please just leave farces to the British.
Oh my God. Someone gave it 1.5 stars and said, Downton Abbey if every character in the house was a twat.
That's good.
Oh, here's one of my favorite ones. 1.5 stars. They just said climax 1939.
I saw that.
Comparing it to the Gaspar Noé 2017 movie. Yeah, that's
so funny.
Someone said, okay, 1.5 stars. This seems, for the review, 1.5 stars seems very genuine, very, very generous. They said, fuck this, fuck the characters, fuck the director and writer, fuck the critics who consider this one of the greatest films ever, fuck the amount of people on the site who have given it 5 stars, fuck this movie. I wish this film's entire existence was destroyed during World War II.
Oh my God. So this is a really funny review because it's 2 stars, but they liked it. Like they put a heart. And the review starts with, yo, I keep dozing off in class. This is absolutely my issue, but I honestly don't want to be super crazy dependent on caffeine, so I don't know what my options are. And then he talks about the film, he or she, and he says, I'm not really a fan of baby adults getting all dopey-eyed and philosophical because they can't keep it in their pants and don't have a grounded grasp on life. 2.5 stars. I hate French people. Justice for the rabbits.
Oh my God. Someone gave it 2 stars and said, I could not care less.
That seems to be a theme.
Well, we did a Renoir. This is rules of the game.
I'm excited to watch this other stuff.
Yeah, me too. Especially Grand Illusion, because that's one that is, I'm surprised that Grand Illusion is not up there with this in the ranking, because that's like a big deal. Yeah, next week is Tuki Buki from 1973, directed by, sorry if I butcher this, Djibril Diop Mambeti. But yeah, so we're going back down to the bottom of the list for next week. But it's in good company with all those other great movies at the bottom.
Yeah. All right, Greg, this has been fun.
This has been fun. Until next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you. Have wonderful weeks.
Seen and Heard is presented by the Arroyo Film Club. Produced by and starring Greg Kleinschmidt and Jacqueline Pistachian. Edited by Greg Kleinschmidt. Music by Andrew Cox. Special thanks to Kathryn Ferentchak.